welcome to my channel. My name is Suzanne Dighton. I'm a UK artist, and today, as always, I'm going to be talking about art and history combined together. Today's story is all about how history got it so wrong, but about an extraordinary woman behind it. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget at the end, if you did enjoy, to like, subscribe and press the notification button. Sit back, relax, and thank you for watching.
In the modern day, we view things not that much different as we did in the past. Instead, we view things on social media, such as we criticise, we give thumbs up, we swipe right, but we don't realise the effect it has on the person behind all of this. This brought me to today's story of an extraordinary woman who was used not only in life and death, and all because of how she looked. Today I'm drawing the history about Julia Pastrana. Julia Pastrana was born in 1934 in Mexico. She was born with a condition that meant that she had excessive body hair. She had hypertrichosis. She was covered head to toe with straight black hair, even her face. The medical condition is less kindly known as werewolf syndrome. Her early life has many versions. One of the versions is that her mum was so horrified how her child looked that she left her tribe and she went to go live in a cave. One fact we do know is that when Julia was very young, the local governor heard of her and asked her to come live in his house. It might have been as a maid, but I do believe it was for his personal entertainment reasons. This is where she was educated to read and write and learnt many languages. She grew up to be 4.5 feet tall and had broad shoulders, but other than that, she was all in proportion. Her face was wide and with a protruding mouth, and she had a full beard. But she seemed bright and full of life. She loved to sing and dance, and she was just fun. Now the story changes at age 20 for reasons unknown. She left the house that she grew up in and met an American showman called Mr. Rates, who promised that she could be a sensation in the United States, and that's what she did. She left to join him in a freak show act in Broadway. In December 1854, she opened the show in Broadway, New York, and she was billed as the marvellous hybrid or bear woman. She wowed the crowd over, but they called her fantastically ugly. She was singing in Spanish folk and dancing a Highland fling. You would think that this was great, that this woman was using what she had to advantage and having fun with it. But behind closed doors, it was a sad life. She was examined, prodded by all different medical and scientific men. And one of these men even confirmed that she was part orangutan and part human. She toured the United States in a freak show exhibition, and then she was sold off to another showman called Theodore Lent, who wanted her to perform all over Europe. July 1857, she came to London in the UK, where she was described as Miss Julia Pastrana, the nondescribed from the United States. Her freedom had been taken away from her at this point. She could not walk to the shops, she could not go down the street. As Lent had said, why would people pay to see you if they could see you in public walking the streets? Always, I'm just going to throw in a little fact. Victorian history was absolutely amazed by freak shows, and this was the time of the Elephant Man, Joseph Merrick. It was a time where if you were different, you'd be judged in public and also put into the spotlight. Whilst in London, Julia was examined by more doctors. This must have been so soul-destroying for the poor woman, and such a lonely life to lead. Theodore Lent went on to marry Julia. I doubt it was for love, but probably more for control and to see how much money he could get from exploiting her in his shows. He travelled all over Europe with people saying that she was too ugly to be on show and should be hidden away from public. The papers called her the baboon woman, the ape lady, and so much more. Even though these such harsh words should affect her, she still carried on and showed her true colours, singing and dancing and designing all her own costumes. While touring in Moscow, Russia, Julia gave birth to a son who also had the same medical condition. Sadly, he only lived for 3 days. Julia passed away herself within the week due to complications in her childbirth at the age of 41. Her story, as sad as it is, does not end there. Her body was then embalmed and taxidermied along with her son. Her husband, who is the villain of this story, carried on exploiting his poor wife and exhibiting the bodies throughout Europe in a cage propped up with Julia standing in a position almost about to dance and her son on a pole. Theodore Lent then went on to marry another woman who had similar features to Julia, and he made her dance on stage with Julia and her son in the cage. The new wife was called Julia Pastrana's younger sister. Theodore Lent died, not with money and gold around him from the cruel freak show acts that he'd put on display. He died in a mental asylum, and his new wife lived happily ever after with a toy boy of 20 years younger than her. Good for her. But what happened to Julia's body and her son, you may be wondering? Well, for 100 years, they were still showed in freak shows and also exhibitions in the United States as late as 1972. The following year, they were meant to be visiting Sweden, but the public rejected them and the bodies were then placed into a storage unit for 6 years. Whilst in the unit, it got broken into a few times and Julia's arm was broken off, and her son, sadly, was chucked into a field where his body was eaten by animals. In 1979, Julia's body was stolen and she ended up in Oslo's Forensic Institute in Norway. She was found to be in a bin bag. In 2013, Julia was finally returned to her home in Mexico, where she was given a proper burial, in which I'm sure as you're listening to this story you would agree this poor woman deserved to lay in peace at last. I just want to finish this story, if I may, with some thoughts of how history can change but also stay the same. As I said in the beginning, we live in a world where thumbs up and swiping and being judgmental just seems to be normal. But just remember, it's true what they say, don't judge a book by its cover, because you never know the full story behind it, just like this one. So please be kind to one another. Thank you for listening and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification button.